Hi everybody, welcome back. This is video 4 in a series I'm trying to put together on YouTube just to show the fundamentals of reloading. And I've chosen the 44 Magnum cartridge to reload. It's my favorite pistol cartridge. And through this little series, I'm hoping that a bunch of people get back into reloading and see how easy and fun it is. So video number 4, we've gone through inspecting cases, punching out the primers, tumbling them to get them clean, full length sizing and measuring them to make sure that they measure in spec. So I've got, I'm still working away at this big pile here. This pile here is all full length sized and it's checked for case length, which is good. Let me talk about brass for a second and how it behaves. So, brass. I think I alluded to it the video before that I was discussing trimming, and maybe I didn't, but I meant to. Who knows? But let's see. Anyway, so brass, the more you work it, the more it starts to get a memory. And instead of becoming or remaining malleable, it becomes like springy almost. So what I find is with brand new brass, I'll resize it and I'll need to trim it up to about 3 times the first 3 reloads. And I don't mind trimming. A lot of people say, I never trim my pistol brass. That's fine, you don't have to, but I like it within spec. I want all the cases to be, within thousandths or 2 of each other so that my crimp on the bullet is consistent on the case mouth. So that's why I trim. And, I've got old school trimmer here, and there's all kinds of power trimmers you can get. I don't mind trimming at all. If there's a part of reloading that you don't like, then you probably should question yourself as to why you're doing it. I don't mind any of the steps. So, with that said, I find that with pistol brass, you can shoot it, resize it, 3 times, and all of a sudden it stops growing. Every one of these cases here, they've been fired many, many times. I stopped counting how many times I shoot brass. I just shoot it when I'm done during the inspection on reloading. If it's got a cracked neck, just chuck it in the bucket. It'll go to the recycling center. And if it's still good and it measures in spec, I'll load it. But be aware that once that brass stops growing, that should tell you something. The brass is starting to get harder. And for this next step, which is running an expander die on the mouth so that you can actually seat a bullet in it, that gets a little weird because the case mouth, will expand on the die and then it will shrink back. It becomes springy instead of malleable. New brass, you can run up through an expander die and it will expand out the case mouth, and then it's fine and the bullet fits in there real nice and smooth. So these are starting to be what I call springy, and no big deal. So there's 2 ways of dealing with that. You can do case annealing, which you heat up the brass and it rejuvenates it and gives it back that malleable characteristic, or you can just adjust your die a little bit to expand it a little bit more. So every time you work brass, you have to realize that you're probably shortening the life of the brass itself. But I don't bother annealing. What I do is this is like the expander dies are the only dies I really routinely adjust. The other ones I set them, make sure that they're producing cases that fit well in cylinders or chambers or magazines, and just leave them. But the expanders, as the brass gets older, I find myself expanding more because it's going to spring back, closer to what it was before we started. So with that said, why do we even expand? All right, so You don't have to expand brass, but if you tried to put a bullet in here right now, and let's do this as an experiment and watch it fail me and make me look like I'm wrong. But so here's a brand new bullet. It's a Berry's 240 grain, 44 caliber bullet. This is a case that's been full length sized only. Let's see. See how the bullet, I mean, you can kind of press it in there. No, you can't. See? So try to imagine filling that with powder and running that up, in the press into the seating die. The bullet's going to fall out, and you're going to have to hold it all the way in, and it's less than ideal. So what we do is this. So this is an expander die. I bumped it out just a little bit, and all it's going to do is it's going to force, come on, focus. It's going to force a piece of metal into this case mouth, and it's going to expand it out a little bit. Now, we're only talking a couple thousandths of an inch. I mean, if you try to do that more, it would probably split the case. But here we go. Let's, actually, you know what? Here's a little experiment. I'm going to measure our case mouth. Dial calipers. You have to have a pair if you're reloading. All right. I'm reading this through the phone, so 449. Yeah, 449. All right. Let's see what it does when I run it up through the expander die. Takes no effort. So what was that? 449. Let's see what we have now. So now we're at 452. 452 thousandths. So that should be enough to allow me to seat a bullet in here. Just press fit. Yeah. And then you can put it in your press and seat the bullet, okay? So, all right, so this is done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set that here. And let's do a few of these. We're going to do 2 steps today. So expanding the case mouth. So it makes it easier to reload, and it does scratch the bullet less. You really only have to worry about that when it comes to reloading with lead bullets. Now, there's people out there that claim that plated bullets are really fragile, but I got to tell you something. They're truly not. I've shot, these are Berry's plated bullets actually. I've shot these through trees and recovered them, and there was no damage to the plating other than the rifling marks on the bullet. So they're a good solid choice, So all right, so we've got these. Now these are technically ready to seat bullets in after charging them, but we need to prime them. Okay, got to put a primer in there. Focus. There we go. All right, here we go. I hope this doesn't start a war. There are so many different ways of priming brass. You can see my preferred method, which is sitting right behind the brass, behind my dial calipers. It's a Lee Auto Prime. I've used this thing for years and years, and it's just awesome. The thing is, I'm not sure that I can use it with one hand, so let me let me try this. So you put your primers in there. See those ribs? You roll them around without the lid on, and they'll right themselves. So they're ready to go into the ram and be primed. So I'm gonna, again, this is so hard with one hand. Sorry, guys. I'm gonna slide my brass, unprimed case. Now, some people say that you should wear hearing protection, and that's not a bad thing. I never have. I've never had a primer go off with this, but in theory it makes sense. So, all right, so all you do is squeeze with your thumb, and it gives you that consistent thumb pressure. So let me just seat that. I go right there, hold it for a second, release. Again, one-handed, very hard. And there we go. Primer. I always run my finger across. You want the primer to be just below the surface of the rim, so it's seated tightly. Now this case here is ready to be charged with powder, have a bullet seated in it, and then crimped, and it's ready to shoot. So we're gonna put this over here. Do I dare punish myself and try and do a few more of these one-handed? It really is a two-handed endeavor. So you tilt it, and the primer, there's a little channel, and the primer, like just one at a time, will go in there, see? And now I'm gonna press with my thumb, and this gives you a nice feel, and it lets you be very consistent about it. Again, I'm not, there we go. And then I just want to make sure that the primer, looks good. Just below the rim, nice. So that one's ready to reload. So in this video, we expanded the mouth. We discussed brass properties and its behavior, and got them expanded and primed and ready to charge with powder. So I'm just going to go through all these, and we'll make a next video on the next steps, which is going to be charging and bullet seating, or probably just charging, and I'll show you my technique for that. And again, I don't mean to pick on anyone's technique. I mean, I know I do my thing here. Others may have a completely different technique that works awesome for them, and my advice is do what works best for you. This is such a cheap little tool. I've heard people bash this thing, but again, mine is ancient, and it's loaded, I don't know, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of rounds maybe, and it's worked well for me. I mean, believe it or not, on most presses, this little slot here, you can actually buy, actually they come with them, but you can buy them if you lost yours, but you can have a priming device here, where once you raise the ram, you fold that inward with your hand, and then drop the case back down, and it primes it for you. And there's a whole host of other ways to prime cases, but this is the one that I like. It's so easy, and it gives me, like, I can use just my thumb, and I can get each primer seated with the same amount of consistency. And reloading is about consistency and trying to replicate accuracy. So that's what I do. Again, if you have something completely different, put it in the comments. You know, you might change my mind, or you might help somebody else out. So comment, like, and share, and all that stuff. And again, this is video 4 of reloading the 44 Magnum. And yeah, happy shooting, and get out to the range as much as you can, and get to your reloading bench and start working some cases. It's really fun and rewarding. All right, good luck, everyone. See you in the next video.